Good afternoon. This is DebraVWilson. I am in Bradford, West Yorkshire. The day is Tuesday. It's the 12th of May, 2020. The time is 12:34 p.m. 12:34 p.m. And that's BS British summertime. Okay, I think I have the right time zone. I do. Well, I know I'm in British. It has been quite some time since I've done a podcast, and first of all, let me say I hope everyone is safe and sound and finding the resilience as we acclimate ourselves to a new normal. So this is going to be rather expansive in its reach podcast that is reflective of the space I'm in the moment, metaphorically speaking. I have a podcast that I want to do on civil society as it manifests itself in the United Kingdom, particularly during the time of Covid-19. But that's a work in progress. However, I will say that I continue to construct civil society, well, society in general, as being analogous to the human body, in which civil society is the body's immune system. That organically emerging civil society responds to what it perceives the body, society, or sector of society needs. And then I believe state intervention is akin to prescribed medication. Sometimes it's needed. You can overdose or underdose. And so for me, with my particular interest in civil society as it intersects organically emerging civil society, as it intersects national security, this is a particular interesting time, as civil society is under unprecedented pressures due to the virus and the worldwide pandemic. That's repetitive, it's a pandemic. And what that means in terms of being able to reach out to people to help, being able to raise funds to finance the services that you provide, and the spaces that you work in. Now changing because of, in Britain, like most of the world, we're engaged in social distancing. So that's interesting to note and understand how that's working itself out. And given that, I don't feel that this is the right place and the right time to do that podcast. In any case, I still wanted to say something. So a couple of things I do want to mention is that there's a new Director General for MI5. Sir Andrew Parker stood down at the end of April, the latter part of April, and now the new Director General is Ken McCallum, and I will post the link. It's quote unquote old news now, but he's young. He's the youngest director they've ever had, and so it's very interesting. MI5's remit is MI5's remit, and that isn't dictated by the director, but it's certainly interesting to see that's in quotes, all this is in quotes, is MI5. It's Britain's national security model. So it's a secret. I say with the utmost respect, but nevertheless, it's all a secret. But it'll be interesting to see how this young man understands and communicates his understanding of protecting us in this place we call home within that remit. So I think it's fascinating, and I'm very curious, and as part of my academic endeavors, and more about that later. Of course, how could I forget that? I haven't. But it'll be interesting to see how this young man, understands his obligation to keep us safe within the constructs of the remit that he's given as the Director General of MI5. And then the next article I will post is Alex Younger, the Director General of MI6, So that's the outward-looking spying agency. MI5 being internal, although they do work together. Alex Younger will be stepping down later this summer, so I will post something about that as well. And who's in the front, one of the front runners. And I'll post an article with him. I didn't forget his name, but I will post it. I usually forget names. So in any case, this is just a quick update to say, I hope, again, everyone is safe, sound, and finding their own space of healthy resilience through this. I wish people good health, to maintain your sanity, and an intellectual curiosity that might help you digest the space we're all living in and facilitate a stronger and more nuanced resilience. So that's my wish. And in conclusion, because I want to keep this a short podcast, my scope remains the national security model of the United Kingdom. The internal bit of it is my focus. So that would be SO15, that's Counter-Terrorism Police, and the security service, that's MI5. And so I might, in the coming days, weeks, months, years, I'll be posting more on that. And then in addition, Israel. I think Israel and the United Kingdom have so many places of intersection in terms of the way they construct national security and what that means for its relational dynamics with civil society. It's been an unusual journey that I've had the last 12 years. Not always pleasant, but one of the more interesting components of it is that I've had the opportunity to, in addition to British intelligence, which is the first intelligence, a group, entity that approached me, approaches in quotes, is all in secret. So they don't come up and shake your hand and say, hello, British spooks. They don't do spies. First time I heard that word as a black person, I was quite offended. Black American. British spies. No, it's nothing like that. So I've had the opportunity to have some intersection. I wouldn't say intersection is the best way to put it. My activism crossed paths with British spies. My activism had reach in the Middle East, and then it crossed paths with Israeli intelligence, the internal group, Shin Bet, or the Shabak. And then it crossed paths with Canadian intelligence, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service. But I don't know why or when or where, that happened. And although I've asked Canadian intelligence CSIS several times, they declined to respond. So what's interesting for me is to look at the ways in which the national security models in the UK and Israel intersect, and the relational dynamics that produces in their respective organically emerging civil societies. I find that absolutely fascinating, so I will continue to post there. And then the national security model between Canada and Israel, and the UK, my goodness, where those intersect, I find that fascinating. And then civil society that emerges from Canada that looks at national security policy and its workings, and the academia that challenges the way the state keeps Canada safe. I think in Canada, the Canada's model of civil society questioning national security policy, as well as academia, Canada, Israel, and the UK are very similar. So and then there's the interconnectivity between Canada and the UK, because Canada and the UK are also both a part of the Five Eyes. And the Five Eyes would be Canada, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand. So I'm going to continue, my research will continue to reflect that. The main scope of the work I will be doing in my academic studies is the national security model in the United Kingdom, and a challenging and oppositional analysis, a scrutiny of how and why the state looks at threat